Hey guys, how are you? I hope everyone of you is fine, friends. So in this video, friends, we are going to talk about hyperinflation, deflation, stagflation, galloping inflation, cost push and demand pull inflation. So this is the things that we are going to talk about in this video, friends. So first of all, I would like to tell you, friends, that according to many economists and many bureaucrats, many government representatives, and the central bank executives, there is a intuition, there is a factor that inflation up to a certain level is beneficial for the economy. Why it is beneficial for the economy? Because this keeps the economy in a buoyant mode with a very vibrant and active economic activity. What happens that if there is some amount of inflation, friends? Because if there is some amount of inflation, obviously the cost will be more. So more cost will lead to greater liquidity. Greater liquidity will lead to the establishment of more businesses, and more businesses will create more employment, and the production capacities will be increased. So some amount of inflation is very much important for the economy. According to some economists, it is being said that inflation in the range of 2 to 4% is healthy for any economy. However, any inflation which overshoots the limit of 4% has the potential to create some problems for the economy. Now here in this figure you can see what types of inflation are there. It is moderate inflation, galloping inflation, hyperinflation, demand pull inflation, cost pull inflation. Now moderate inflation, I just told you that moderate inflation is that inflation, some amount of inflation is very much useful for the economy because it makes the economy very much vibrant and active, and it leads to greater employment and greater economic activity in the economy. So this is moderate inflation. Even an inflation of 6 to 7% can be said to be of the moderate type. However, when we cross the moderate inflation, we comes to a term known as galloping inflation. Now, what is galloping inflation, friends? Friends, in an economy, when the cost of goods and services is increasing at the rate of double-digit inflation, or you can say the initial stages of triple-digit inflation, then this is said to be a galloping inflation. For example, suppose that 1 kg of onion today is selling at around 100 rupees per kg, and the inflation for the year becomes at 50%. So if the inflation of the year becomes at 50%, then next year the price of 1 kg of the onion will come out to be 150 rupees per kg. So that is a very steep hike, because in this 1 year the salaries of the people, the earnings of the people are not going to increase too much, but due to this galloping inflation, the prices of the onion have shooted up 50%. It is shooted up quite a big amount. So this is galloping inflation, and due to this galloping inflation, the most affected classes are the middle and lower income groups, because their purchasing power decreases because there is no commensurate increase in the earnings. However, the prices of the onions are increasing exorbitantly. I am taking the example of onion. This can be set in different aspects. There comes the hyperinflation. Now when we go one step above the galloping inflation, it comes the hyperinflation. Hyperinflation is a type of inflation whose rate is greater than 3 digits. Okay, and this happens when the supply of the money in the economy is excessively high and there is not commensurate enough economic production. For example, friends, say we will take the example of Germany, post World War Germany. We know that Germany lost in the World War One. It even lost in the World War Two, but we are talking about the post World War One phase. After 1918, in the year of around 1921, 1922, there was extreme poverty in Germany. People were on the streets. There was not enough money. So what the government of Germany did, it printed a lot of currency. A lot of currency was printed by the German government and released in the market. But what happened? Currency was there in the market, but the appropriate amount of production, the goods that needs to be there in the market, that was not there. So what happened? A time came, because people had money, because money was printed in excess. But even to purchase one bread quantity, people had to fulfill the whole trucks of money and then go. One whole truck of money was needed to it was needed to purchase one loaf of bread. This was the inflation at that point of time. It was hyperinflation. Okay, that is, there was one woman. It was in the cold months at that time in Germany, the wood was needed for warming purposes, but the women were burning the notes, because even those notes had so low purchasing power capacity that they were not even able to purchase woods for them. So obviously they were burning the notes to get warmness in the winter months. So this was the amount of hyperinflation, and friends, that is, inflation goes on beyond a limit. that even for example in India, if today the onion is 100 rupees per kg, and suppose the next year the onion per kg is selling for rupees 50,000 per kg, so that is hyperinflation, because a lot of money has come in the economy, but the appropriate production capacity of the economy has not changed. It has not improved. So this happens when hyperinflation comes. Okay friends, so this is hyperinflation. This generally happens when a lot of liquidity is pumped in the economy and no commensurate production capacity is increased. Then comes the stagflation. Stagflation is an even worse situation than hyperinflation. What happens in the stagflation, friends, that extreme unemployment is there, high inflation is there, and poor economic growth is there. That means inflation is also high, unemployment is also there, and poor economic growth is also there. Now friends, we know about the repo rate and reverse repo rate. Every one of you know about it. I have already talked about the repo rate in my previous videos. You go to those videos and you can see what repo rate is, and there are a lot of videos available on YouTube. So what happens in stagflation, friends? For example, if there is high inflation, so what the RBI does to deal with high inflation, or any central bank of any country does, if there is high inflation, so what that central bank does is that, one minute, it increases the repo rate. So by increasing the repo rate, what is repo rate? The repo rate is the money at which the RBI lends money to the commercial banks, and then the commercial banks rotates that money in the economy. Similarly, the Federal Reserve Bank of the United States of America lends money to their banks, and then those banks rotate that money in the economy. Now, if the central bank is hiking the interest rates, then obviously the interest rates will be increased for the commercial banks, and obviously the commercial banks, when lending that amount to the people, are also going to increase their rates. And if the rates are increased, then obviously the borrowing cost for the people will increase. And if the borrowing cost for the people will increase, obviously the people are going to borrow less. And if the people are going to borrow less, there will be less liquidity in the economy. And due to less liquidity in the economy, the production capacity will suffer, because not many businesses will be taking loans to extend their business capacities, or not many entrepreneurs will be interested in taking the money and opening new businesses, because the cost of borrowing has increased. And if the new businesses will not be opened, if the production capacities will not be extended, then obviously employment will not be generated. And employment will not be generated, then the already prevalent situation of extreme unemployment will get further inflated. So obviously this stagflation is a sort of checkmate for the government, because in this thing, the government can neither increase the interest rates, and the government can either not decrease the interest rates, because if the government is going to reduce the repo rate, then obviously the commercial banks are also going to reduce the interest rates for the people. So obviously the liquidity will further be increased, and it will lead to further inflation in the economy. So the central bank cannot move in any way. It can either increase the repo rate, it can either decrease the repo rate. So it is fixed in between. It is sort of checkmate for the government. So stagflation is the worst form of inflation. So stagflation is a combined mixture of extreme unemployment, high inflation, and poor economic growth. Coming forward to deflation, friends. Deflation, friends, is basically simply means negative inflation. In this means that the prices are decreasing, and this may be due to many reasons. One of the reasons is that the money supply in the economy is reduced. So if the money supply in the economy is reduced, and obviously the goods are the same, then obviously if the money supply is less, then the prices of goods will also reduce. Or one thing can happen, that the money supply remains constant, but the supply of goods in the economy becomes excessive. So obviously now less money will be chasing more goods. If less money is going to chase more amount of goods, then the prices are going to decrease. Okay friends. Or if there is reduced demand in the economy, so in any of these cases, the prices of goods and services are going to decrease. Then we can say that inflation is not there, deflation is there, because the prices of goods and services are decreasing. Now this may seem to be beneficial for the consumers in the short run, but in the long run it is not beneficial for the economy, because if the prices of the goods are going to decrease, then obviously the operating cost and the profit margins of the companies are going to decrease. And if the profit margins of the company are going to decrease, the companies will not be interested in extending their production and producing and maintaining employment. Obviously, if profit of the companies will be maintained, it is increased, then obviously the company are going to expand more people will come into the business. But if the profit is going to reduce, then obviously nobody will come into the business. Even the existing enterprises will produce less. So that will not be very much beneficial for the economy, because for the economy it is very much important that some amount of inflation is there, so that economic activity can be boosted, employment can be produced. Then comes the cost pull inflation and demand pull inflation. This is very simple, friends. For example, for producing any goods and services, some inputs are required. That inputs can be in the form of land or labor or entrepreneurship. So obviously, if any of the cost of this land, labor or entrepreneurship is increased, then obviously the enterprise which is involved in the production of goods is going to increase the cost of the consumers of the good. And if the cost for the consumers of the good will increase, that will be said as the cost push inflation, because the cost is being increased due to the increase in the prices of the land, labor and entrepreneurship. Then comes demand pull inflation, friend. What does demand pull inflation means? Demand pull inflation means that suppose the amount of goods produced in the economy are constant, but the demand for those goods has increased. So obviously, suppose the requirement of onion is 100 kg, but now the amount of available onion in the economy is only 80 kg. So 100 kg is required and 80 kg is available. So obviously, a lot of demand will be there for that available 80 kg. So people who were previously paying 100 rupees kg for that onion, they will now be ready to pay 120 rupees per kg for that onion, because the onion available in the economy is less and the demand for that onion is high. So obviously this is demand pull inflation. Because of the increasing demand, the price of the commodity is increasing. So this is demand pull inflation. So in this video, friends, I have explained to you all the types of inflations. I hope this video was very helpful for you. So thank you for watching this video, friends. If you have liked this video, please please through the comment section, please tell me how you like this video, and if you have satisfied with this video, then please subscribe to my channel. So have a nice day, very nice day, friends. Goodbye.